I'm John Seaman, and I'm with Kerry Kautzer, and we're covering the vintage races here at Road America Racetrack. This is the race weekend of September 24th and 25th and 26th, and this is the Vintage Sports Car Driver Association Vintage Fall Festival. The cars here this weekend are vintage race cars that date back into the 40s, 50s, 60s, and in some cases the 70s. It consists of different groups. Group 1 is the pre-war and early vintage cars. That would be the sports and racing cars of early MGs, HRGs, Morgans, mostly the old Fender, motorcycle Fender type cars. Group 2 is vintage and modified vintage production-based cars. These would be standard production cars up through 1963 over and under 2-liter displacements. Group 3 are sports racing cars. These would be factory racing cars, again in engine displacements of over and under 2 liters displacement. The monoposto cars through 1972 would be the Formula Junior, Formula 3, and Formula C cars. Group 5 is FIA World Manufacturers Championship cars and prototype cars. These would mainly be experimental cars over and under 2 liters, including the FIA group cars. Group 6 is historic production GTO, which would be the Corvettes and other cars in that category over and under 3-liter displacement. Behind me is Group 7, which are Formula Vs. The Formula Vs were cars in the small Volkswagen engine group, and they are through 1969. Group 8 is historic production cars through 1973. These are production-based cars over and under 1,500 cc displacements. Group 9 are exhibition cars, and this is a group in which old NASCARs run. And Group 10 is monoposto. These are single-seater, open-wheel cars in the Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula B cars through pre-1966. I'm with Frank Diaz, and he has a very interesting old MG with some very pertinent racing information for this weekend. Could you tell us a little bit about the car?
Yeah, the car is a 1931 MG C-Type, a Monterey midget. It was a factory-built race car. They only made 44 in 1931, and there's about 12 left in the world today, and there are only 3 in the U.S. All 3 are here in the Midwest, 1 in Madison and 2 in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, and the car is a 750cc engine. It's not very big, but it has a supercharger on there. This car was raced at Le Mans, at Brooklands in England, and Nürburgring in Germany. And it averaged over 100 miles an hour when it raced at Le Mans. That's for 24 hours. It averaged 100 miles an hour. I said the car was aluminum. The engine block, it has a single overhead cam. Driven by the generator. It's a very peculiar thing, and I'll show you when we look at the engine. Typical British engineering. That's really about it.
You were telling me something interesting about the headlights that are on the car.
Yeah, the headlights are Marshall headlights, which are French. Since the car raced at Le Mans, they required that they put on French headlights. So those are very rare, these Marshall headlights. And originally it had a French supercharger, a Cosette. Right now it has a Roots blower on there, or supercharger, which is an English supercharger. I have the Cosette. We're not going to put it on. We're kind of debugging it. And without the supercharger, you're on a Sunday drive. It just doesn't go very fast. It's a Brooklands exhaust. That's the exhaust, and that's the fishtail back there. It's unique to this car, but other cars use them from the early 30s. They use the same type of exhaust system. The gas tank is in the rear under the boat tail. Right now it has an 8-gallon gas tank, but when it raced at Le Mans, they used over 20-gallon gas tanks because they had to drive for a long time. That way they wouldn't have to gas up. But for this type of racing, I don't want 20 gallons back there. 8 is more than enough.
Does it have a fuel pump and all that in it? I know the Bugattis, you had to pump it.
Yeah, this has 2 fuel pumps. So if one, I could use both, or switch from one to the other if one gives me a problem. So I do have 2 fuel pumps.
Being a lot older, 10 years older more than the TCs, how is it competitively?
Well, this car with the supercharger is faster than the TCs. I have a TC also, but it's faster. It's more maneuverable, and it goes where you want it to go, which is the interesting thing about it.
The tires are so narrow, though. Doesn't that affect it a little bit?
Not at all. Not at all. They're 450 by 19-inch tires. No, it handles very well. Surprising. The car has 12-inch brakes, which are pretty big brakes. It has a hydraulic braking system right now. Originally, they were mechanical brakes, but somebody converted it to hydraulic along the way. And I think I'm going to go back to mechanicals because I don't drive it that much. And with hydraulic brakes, they tend to get rusted and all that, and then you don't have any brakes, you have to redo them. But the braking system is excellent on here. Unbelievable.
Well, it's really an unusual car, and it's great to see it out racing.
Oh, I have fun with it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So today is really going to be the acid test, or I mean tomorrow when we start, because now I've got a supercharger that won't blow up on there. So did you want to see the engine? And I'll show you that peculiar arrangement. The engine, as I said before, is a 750cc engine with a single overhead cam. Now, I've got a generator on here, but the important thing about the generator is that it drives the overhead cam. And if you take a shot over here, you'll see what I'm talking about. Here's the generator. It's mounted vertically. You see, it's mounted vertically. It's driven by the crankshaft through bevel gears at the bottom, and through bevel gears at the top, it drives the camshaft. typical British engineering. So, I mean, I'm not looking to charge the battery with the generator, but I need it to operate the cam. And
maybe explain how the fuel goes from the supercharger up through into the carburetor?
yeah, the fuel goes from the fuel pump, brings the fuel up. Here's the carburetor right here. Here's the fuel bowl. That is inducted into here, brought into the supercharger itself, where it sucks air or compresses the air, forces the fuel mixture through the induction pipe all the way over to here into the manifold and forces the fuel air mixture into the combustion chamber under pressure, so you develop a lot of power. I'm running about 8 to 10 pounds of boost, which is pretty good. Anything more than that and the car will blow up. Let's see what else is there. Originally, these were oil tanks right here. These were oil tanks which were operated by a valve on there, much like a toilet bowl tank, to feed oil to the engine and keep the level constant, because they had to run for 24 hours. So this way they wouldn't have to keep adding oil. It's not used for that anymore. We just add the oil to it and that's it. So these are disconnected. You could put tea in here or lemonade or whatever you want. The other thing about some of these early MGs is they do not have fans for cooling. It's thermosiphon cooling. That's based on the principle that the hot water goes to the top and the cool water's at the bottom, and it moves that way. As the hot water gets dumped on there, the cooler water moves around. And it works. It works. So I don't have any overheating problems, which is remarkable. It's a lot of fun to drive. I can't think of anything else. It's a 4-speed gearbox. All right, when this car was imported into the U.S., it did not have this body. It had some other weird body on the car, and they were able to find the original body that was on this car when it was made. A fellow in England found it, and this is the original number plate of the car, and that's how he verified that it was the original body. The body's all aluminum, and got the original body back on again.
Number 6, Peter Fino, Nashville, Illinois.
Hi, my name's Jack Bowser, and this is my first outing with this car. It started out as a 29 Model A Ford. Don't know if it was a four-door sedan or what it was. When I bought the car, it did not have a body on it, but it had this very rare option on the engine. Riley was a race car driver back in the early days, and he made this special head which converts the Model A engine to overhead valves for the intake. The exhaust valves are still down in the block, but he brought push rods up where the exhaust valves used to be to double overhead push rods, or rocker arms up here. So I have two intake valves per cylinder and one exhaust valve per cylinder. And it breathes across the engine now, and the carburation is two Stromberg 81 downdraft carburetors. Original carburation was over here going in these holes that are now plugged. So the car's got a lot more horsepower than it had before. And then the body, we kind of I wanted to design a body that sort of looked like what somebody might have done in the 30s with a Model A to go racing. So I made it look a little bit like a two-man Indy car. It's got the fuel pump on the side, which is an air pump that puts pressure in the gas tank, which is what forced the fuel up to the engine. I have an electric fuel pump in this car, but that is hooked up to the vent on the gas tank. So if I had a problem with my electric fuel pump, I can shut a valve off, and then that becomes functional. And other than that, not too much to say about the car. It's been lowered. I cut the frame and did what they call Z-ing the frame. You cut the frame and then you put the bottom part on top of the front part to get the back down. The front was dropped by putting a dropped axle on the front and reverse side springs, but it's pretty much all Model A components. I did put V8 wheels on, which is your bigger balloon tires to give me a little better traction with hydraulic brakes. But the Model A tires wheels I should say, will bolt back on the car. And it turns out the Model A wheels are similar in diameter than these, because these are 17-inch rims with a big tire. The Model A is a 21-inch rim with a small tire, and it turns out to be about the same diameter. And then the dashboard, Model A's had about one gauge in them, an amp meter and a speedometer, but I kind of like meters. So I've got a full set of instrumentation in the car, which is nice, so you can keep track of what's going on with the engine. Any questions about the car I can answer?
When did you start the project and finish it?
Yeah, it's one of those projects that I started like 7 years ago, and then it sat in my warehouse for a while. Then I got it out again, and on and off again. It probably took 7 or 8 years, but really seriously working on the car probably about a year.
Is this his first outing?
First racing with it, yeah. I'm not sure how much of racing I'm going to do with it. I don't want to hurt it, I had it up over 80 miles an hour today, and it wasn't working very hard, which is pretty good for a Model A Ford. See, originally obviously didn't go that fast. And I've got a little trunk back here that gives me some room to store some tools, and my battery's in the back. I wanted to get some weight in the back. The gas tank is between the seat and the storage area. And there's also some storage in the cowl. Since I pulled myself back, the steering wheel is back about 14 inches from its original place. So there's a lot of storage in the cowl where the hydraulic cylinder is for the brakes and things that are kind of nice not to see. The car looks more era without hydraulics showing. So I do have a little space to store a tonneau cover and tools and things, so if it rains today, I've got a cover stored in the cowl that I can pull out. And the taillights are standard Model A taillights, and the headlights are standard Model A headlights. So I used as much Model A components as I could.
I'm with Liz Strather from St. Paul, Minnesota, and she has a Lotus, and she races a Lotus. Can you tell us what the car is and a little about it?
It's called a Lotus 61. It's a 1969 Formula Ford car, 1600cc engine.
Okay, and who makes the engine for it?
It's a Ford, but it's a vintage car, so obviously they're not new engines. They're older, Pinto type engines.
Now, you've had this car for how long, and where did you get it?
We've had it for a number of years. I'm going to have trouble remembering where we got it from. Rich was racing it for a while before I got into it. So
I guess I should add that her husband, Rich Strather, also races a Lotus.
His is actually called a Merlin, so it's a little different. Both British.
Now, you've been racing the car for a couple of years. What do you like about the car?
Oh, they're just enormous amount of fun. They're so responsive. You've got such great vision in these cars because there's no body work getting in the way. You can watch your wheels. You can see exactly what's going on. They're just a blast. They really are.
When you race, you typically race against how many other cars?
It varies quite a bit. Out here, it might be something like 30 cars on the track, maybe something like that. And there's usually more than one class of cars, too, some faster, some slower.
I assume this probably goes fast enough for you, but how fast do you think you've had it up to?
The top speed on these is something like 115. No speedometer, so I don't know for sure.
Have you had it opened up?
Yes, Main Straight especially, yeah.
So do you race on any other tracks?
Yeah, so we race quite a bit in Brainerd, Minnesota, and also Northern Illinois at Blackhawk Farms, and Gimli, Canada. We've been doing that for a couple of years. It's a little tiny track up there, and once in a while to something else, Michigan or whatever. So
the big question is, do you finish ahead or behind your husband?
Well behind, I'm afraid. He's been doing it for about 20 years, so yeah.
Well, thank you, Liz. It's a very nice car. Have fun this weekend.
Thank you very much.
with Bob Woodward from Dubuque, Iowa. And Bob is going to tell us about this Formula Cooper car.
I'll be happy to. This is a rather interesting car. It's one of a kind, and it's a car that Bruce McLaren built as a Cooper in 1964. Although McLaren built the car and not Cooper, it had to be called a Cooper because Bruce was still under contract with Cooper at that time. At the same time that Bruce was building this car, he contracted to Firestone to run Firestone tires. And unfortunately, Firestone only had 15-inch tires, and the car was designed to run 13-inch tires. So the car was built specifically to go to the Tasman series in Australia and New Zealand, and has a 2.5-liter Climax engine in it. He also ran a car with Phil Hill in it, who won the championship of the F1 series in 1961. Bruce took the car over there, and he did really, for a new car, he did well. He had some seconds, thirds, and fourths, but Graham Hill stayed in front of him, and Jimmy Clark was also outperforming him. And the sole reason was because they were trying to make do with these 15-inch Firestone tires. Well, eventually, for the last race, the Grand Prix of Australia, Firestone came up with 13-inch tires, and sure enough, Bruce won the race. So it's an interesting car from the standpoint that it did win a World Championship Grand Prix, and it was the first car running Firestone tires that won a Grand Prix. And so it makes it rather distinctive. The car, as I said, was one of a kind. It's designated as a serial number FL 164, meaning Formula Libre number 1, built in 1964. The car went back to England, where it was immediately sold from Bruce to men in South Africa by the name of John Love. John Love was a very successful South African racer, won the championship of South Africa, the Drivers' Championship, several years in a row, driving earlier model Coopers. So John Love took it. He raced it for about 3 seasons and did extraordinarily well. He eventually, like any race car, it became obsolete, and eventually found its way back in England. Went to a Scottish gentleman who hill climbed the car, and from there to a restoration person in England, and the car was given a rough restoration. Eventually, the car was purchased by Joel Finn of Connecticut, and he didn't race it a lot. He raced it a few times. In the process of my looking for a Formula One Cooper, and I looked at 2 Coopers ostensibly from South Africa, but with all the research I was doing and the contacts I was using in South Africa, I could not document the history of either of those 2 cars. So I was talking on the telephone to Joel, and I said, you know, John Love ran a Cooper called a T79. Do you have any idea where that car might be? He said, sure, it's in my barn. I said, when you were here the last time, you walked right by it. I said, you're kidding. So one thing led to another, and we reached an agreement, buyer and seller, over the telephone. And after a race at Mid-Ohio, we took our rig and went out and picked it up. Last winter, we subjected the car to total restoration, rebuilt the engine. So we've been spending some track time this year basically trying to sort things out and make it run. And we're getting right along with that. It's a rare car. It's a very, like all Cooper-type cars, it's very easy to drive, very forgiving, very predictable. And, of course, it's a thrill for me to have a single car like this and to have a car that actually won a World Championship Grand Prix race. I intend to have a lot of fun with it for many years.
I'm with David Jahimiak, and he has a 1957 Devon. Could you tell us about the history of the car?
Well, it was a West Coast car that was raced, I don't know how extensively, but it was raced on the West Coast. I don't think it really won a whole lot. I don't think they got the brakes really dialed in on the car or got a motor that was strong enough and the suspension. And when we got it, it was kind of archaic, and we didn't do any updates to modern specs, but we took old parts and made it right. We changed the calipers to the Devon SS calipers, which are really successful and acceptable also for vintage rules and that. We've got decent brakes in the car because it does probably 165 miles an hour on the straightaway.
The power plant, what is that?
It's a small block Chevy 350. It's 40 thousandths overbore. Got about 525 horsepower, 13.5 to 1 compression. We had a kind of a stock motor with raised heads, and we were turning really good times here, like 225. And I don't have to push this very hard, and I can go at 224, which that second is a light year on the track, though, you know. But I think it'll go faster. I just can't get any clear track time. There's so many cars out there in practice right now.
What did you have to go through to bring the car up to racing specs?
Well, it was always a racer, but to rebuild it, we pretty much redid everything. The chassis was bent and rusted, and we copied that pretty much identically. The suspension and all that is identical. It's sort of archaic. The rear end is a Ford 9-inch with leaf springs in the rear. The front suspension is Austin Healey A-arms. We've added, they had added tube shocks because the Healey shocks are not real reliable. They foam up a lot. So they added tube shocks. For racing, we put newer ones on, Carrera shocks. And we redid the brakes. It had Austin Healey calipers in the front and XKE calipers in the rear, and we changed that to Devon SS. It's a big aluminum Girling style caliper. Huge pads. Comparatively anyway, about twice the surface area we have now. But that's really acceptable with all the Devons because the Devon SS has had the identical same thing.
You were telling me earlier that it's pretty competitive against the Scarabs.
Yeah, it's actually, there's no Scarab that can run with it. A Scarab recently sold, Donna Roscoe's about 1.5 years ago, that's recent, sold in California for $2 million. And as I was saying, I think the car looks better than a Scarab, and it's faster, and it was built the same year. I don't think it's worth $2 million, but I think it's a bargain in the $150,000 range. It's very easy to repair as far as it's a fiberglass body, as opposed to the Scarab has a aluminum, which dents up pretty easily from stone chips and things like that. This is real durable. It's been a real good car. I don't have to be fixing it all the time. I just take it out and run it and bring it in and check the brakes and lug nuts and fill it up with gas. No.
I get a kick every time I see you standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to me that you obviously do not adore me. I get no kick in a plane, flying too high with no gal in the sky is my idea of nothing to do.